Chapter 19 Rite of Passage. The Alban Farm, late July, 1758. 3 weeks after escorting John to Fort Loudon, the awkward void left by his absence is finally starting to fade as life for the villagers of Alban slowly returns to normal. Save his brothers Robert Jr. and James, who find themselves picking up the slack as a result of his absence, which is probably just as well, as the heavier workload is diverting their thoughts from wondering what he is doing, with Robert, now the oldest, leading his younger brothers through the difficult transition. Fort Loudon, early September, 1758. Like his brothers, John is going through a transition of his own, adapting to the regimental lifestyle and highly disciplined environment of the Virginia Regiment. And yet, difficult as it is, he has no regrets, his conviction strong and unwavering. Thanks to his upbringing, soldiering comes easy to him. The real challenge is integrating into his new unit and finding his place amongst his fellow soldiers, including Privates Jones and Laird, who he had a run-in with in Winchester, and they are watching him with a close eye. This is especially true of Jones with his mangled ear. Unfortunately, Sergeant Johnson warned him unbecoming conduct will be dealt with swiftly and harshly, meaning cutting off Jones's other ear would probably not work out well for either of them, so for now he will toe the line. But Jones and Laird are not the problem. Being the new guy, however, is. Since the day he arrived, and for no understandable reason, the soldiers of Captain Eustis's company are giving him the cold shoulder, likely, he suspects, due to Laird and Jones bad-mouthing him, still bitter about being bested at O'Callahan's by an 18-year-old kid. Despite the obvious friction, John, like his father, possesses an undeniable charm, making him a very likable fellow. As such, he eases into the good graces of a number of his fellow soldiers over the course of the first few weeks. This, of course, not setting well with Jones and Laird, who consider themselves the alphas of the unit. Slowly but surely a divide emerges in the company, with half of the men aligning with the morons and the other half with John. Recognizing the growing rift, Sergeant Johnson devises a plan to bring it to a halt. Prior to John's arrival, Laird had proven to be the finest shot in the company. This, coupled with his intimidating manner, garnered him respect amongst the other men, if for no other reason than fear itself. While training with their muskets, Sergeant Johnson observes what he already suspected. His new private is as skilled with his musket as he is with his blade. With that confirmation, he calls his men together to put his plan in motion. "Fall in!" The men jump into formation, eyes forward, standing at attention. "All right, men, listen up. Captain Eustis is looking for a company scout, a man with keen tracking skills and a highly skilled marksman. First, you must understand that the role of a scout is no for everyone. 'Tis a perilous job, as scouts play a significant role in the field, often on their own, seeking out the enemy and providing command with critical information about their whereabouts, movements, numbers, and the like. So, what I'm saying is, the scout's mission is dangerous, and therefore no for everyone. Now, I'll no lie to you. I already have someone in mind. However, in the spirit of competition, I'm open to volunteers. So, if any of you brave souls feels you're man enough for the job, step forward now, or forever hold your tallywhacker." In an instant, Privates Alban and Jones step forward, raising their hands, glancing at each other as they do. Jones with an angry glare, and John with a confident grin, smiling out the corner of his eye. Private Jones, have you tracking skills? Yes, Sergeant. I see. And Private Alban, you could track as well? To the amusement of his chuckling peers, aye, if it walks, breathes, eats, or shites, I could track it. Very well, but here's the problem. Private Jones here has already proven himself the finest shot in the company, and the job of scout requires the finest of marksmen. So, I'm afraid I can outshoot every man in the regiment, Sergeant. I done told you once, I can shoot the nose off a squirrel at 100 yards, and I meant it. Let's see Private Jones do that, he blurts to the amusement of his fellow soldiers. Is that so? Well, we've no bloody squirrels to shoot, but we do have targets. So, how about some good old-fashioned competition? The winner earning himself the prestigious title of Company Scout. You up for it? Together they shout, Yes, Sergeant. Very well, then. Privates Jones and Alban, take your positions on the firing line. The rest of you, fall out and make yourselves comfortable. Now listen up. Upon the sound of me flintlock, shooters will, from the position of attention, load, aim, and fire one round at their targets. The man who shoots the quickest and most accurate wins, with today's competition being the best 2 out of 3 shots. Any questions? No, Sergeant. Good. Then shooters, stand ready. As Jones and Alban stand at the firing line, the other soldiers gather around, placing bets and watching with anticipation. From atop his mount in the distance, Captain Eustace looks on. Colonel William Byrd on the mount beside him, and the familiar-faced man on the horse next to him, his interest in his new recruit piquing as they observe the competition. The sergeant looks at both competitors and barks, Shooters ready! As both men nod, Sergeant Johnson walks up behind them and raises his pistol, firing a round into the air. Cha-pow! The loud blast brings Jones to cringe and fall to a knee. Meanwhile, John lifts his heavy .69 caliber flintlock musket into position, gliding through the steps. Powder, patch, ball, rod, lift, cock, and aim. Cha-pow! Followed a split second later by Jones's shot. Cha-pow! Lowering their muskets, they return to attention and await the outcome. A voice calls from downrange, 2 perfect hits! The men cheer while their commander and his fellow officers look on from the distance. The sergeant glances back at his men and the officers in the distance nodding. Reloading his pistol, he turns back to the shooters. Nicely done, lads. I guess we'll be calling that one a tie. All right, then. Ready yourselves for round 2. The 2 privates exchange a glance, then turn their attention downrange, awaiting the sound of their sergeant's flintlock. The sergeant waits, letting an unnerving pause set in. Then, cha-pow! Jumping into action, they repeat their steps, lifting their barrels and firing. The 2 shooters move in perfect harmony with one another, getting off their shots at precisely the same time before returning to attention, the familiar-faced man watching all the while. A voice calls from downrange, Same! 2 perfect hits! The sergeant peers at his commander, then back at the shooters. So, it appears we've another tie, lads. Well done. All right, then. It all comes down to this. Hoping to fire up his men, he looks back at them with a fist pump. And the winner of this 3rd and final round earns the position of company scout. The men cheer. Now things are getting real, and the rhetoric between the men heats up. Smugly, Private Laird leans into the ear of a fellow soldier. I've got my money on Jones. Pulling away, the soldier turns to him. Yeah, I'll take that bet. Laird huffs. All my guard duty for a month. Grinning, the soldier shakes his hand with a sharp nod. "A month it is." As Sergeant Johnson reloads his pistol, the familiar-faced man dismounts and slowly approaches the company from behind. Stopping just feet behind the group, he quietly observes. While on their mounts, Captain Eustace and Colonel Byrd exchange a glance. Pistol loaded and pointed into the air, the sergeant shouts, "Shooters ready!" Chapow! As the shooters jump into action, the familiar-faced man makes his way swiftly through the men watching, some stumbling over their own boots to get out of his way. As the shooters lift their barrels to aim, he walks up behind them, pulls his pistol, and fires a shot just behind their heads. Chapow! Startled by the phantom shot, Jones fires his musket aimlessly. Dumbfounded, he starts to turn around, but a voice stops him in his tracks. "Stand fast, soldier." Unfazed, John remains focused and methodically takes his shot a split second later. Chapow! With both shots fired, the shooters stand at attention, eyes downrange, awaiting the results when a voice calls from the distance. "One perfect shot!" Frustrated, the sergeant barks, "For the love of Christ, whose shot hit the mark?" "Alban! A perfect hit! Center mast!" And with that, the men burst into cheers, backslapping and fist-pumping, with some collecting their winnings. Laird turns to find his friend staring him down with a Cheshire cat grin. "If I'm no mistaken, that's a month you owe me." Swallowing his pride, "A month indeed." Regaining order, the sergeant commands, "Company! Fall in! Shooters! About face!" As the men fall into formation, the shooters execute an about face to find Colonel Washington resting his still-smoking pistol against his shoulder. Both men recognize him immediately. He glares at Jones momentarily, then steps forward, placing a hand on John's shoulder. "That was some fine marksmanship, Private." John salutes. "Thank you, sir." Washington returns his salute. "Private Alban, correct?" "Aye, sir." Washington nods. "I thought so." Apparently, the fruit falleth not far from the tree. "Sir?" "Never mind, Private. It's not important. Congratulations. Well done." "Thank you, sir." Meanwhile, Private Jones remains standing at attention, the look on his face screaming fury and embarrassment. Washington throws John a proud smile, then turns to the men. "And that, gentlemen, is how it is done." The sergeant shouts, "3 cheers for Private Alban, our new company scout! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray!" When they finish, Washington says a few words. "What you men need to understand is in battle, you will not be firing your weapon at targets. You will, in fact, be surrounded by madness, fear, death, the unexpected, confusion, and chaos. Which is why I took the liberty of firing my sidearm as I did. Those of you who wish to survive in battle must remain calm, focused, and resolved, as Private Alban demonstrated. You cannot allow yourselves to be distracted when faced with your enemy, as Private..." Sergeant Johnson leans forward. "Jones, sir." "As Private Jones demonstrated. If you allow yourself to be distracted, you will miss your mark. And if you miss your mark, then you, my friend, become the mark. Understood?" From attention, the men shout, "Yes, sir!" "Good. Then let this be a lesson to you all. It's not the men who can shoot quickly and accurately who survive in battle. It's the men who can shoot quickly and accurately under pressure. And it is they who shall be the victor. Understood?" "Yes, sir!" Turning back to John, "Well done, Private." "Thank you, sir." Washington turns away from John. "Sergeant." "Yes, sir." "Fine work. Carry on." With a sharp salute, "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." Captain Eustace rides up with Washington's horse. He takes the reins, mounts up, and after a brief word with the captain, slowly rides away with Colonel Byrd. As they ride away, Captain Eustace brings his mount to the front of his formation and addresses his men. "Sergeant Johnson, am I to understand we've identified our new scout?" "Aye, sir, we have indeed. Private Alban, sir." "Very well, then. Congratulations, Private Alban. Men, fall out and congratulate your new scout." "Well done, Sergeant. You and your men have earned the remainder of the day off, but I'll expect every man in place come the morning." "Aye, sir. Thank you, sir." As the men fall out of formation, John finds himself surrounded, each of his peers patting him on the shoulder or back with their congratulations. And while the company celebrates, Sergeant Johnson walks over to Private Jones. "I hope you learned something today, Private. In war, arrogance will get you dead. Now, take your sorry arse over there and congratulate the man who bested you." Deflated. "Yes, Sergeant." "What, Private? I didn't hear you." Popping sharply to attention and with an ounce of disdain in his voice, he barks, "Yes, Sergeant." "Good. Now move your arse." With the men still congratulating him, John looks up to find Jones standing in front of him, and a hush falls over the group. Standing toe-to-toe, Jones steps forward. "Congratulations. You bested me fair and square." John looks him in the eyes, then shakes his hand firmly. "Thanks, Jonesy. There's no one I'd rather have fighting at me side." Jones nods with a grin. "Back at you." At that moment, John realizes he has earned his rite of passage and a place of respect amongst the men of his company. Meanwhile, Sergeant Johnson stands proudly by, watching his men, overjoyed by the esprit de corps he is witnessing. He had flawlessly removed the divide that existed between his men and united his company. Furthermore, he had found a way to show his men what they had yet to learn about their newest recruit. By giving John an opportunity to show off his skills and nerves of steel, he had given him an opportunity to earn the respect of his fellow soldiers, including that of Privates Jones and Laird. And now his men will fight and die for each other.